Now, the water here in our river comes out at about 72 to 74 degrees all year round. Anyone from up north will think that's a lovely ambiance swing temperature, and anyone from down here will think it's freezing.
Yep.
Raise your hand if you think it's freezing. Those here folks are your locals. You can ask them for restaurant recommendations on your way out.
Oh yeah, big soft shell turtle.
Oh, yep, looks like we have a big soft-shell turtle over there.
I have to find my chart.
Now, our river here does get water quality tested on a regular basis, and it comes out of the head spring at 99.8% fresh pure water, with that 0.2 being trace minerals. So you could drink it if you wanted to, but after a busy day here at Buccaneer Bay, we wouldn't recommend it.
Hard up the sign, trying to avoid the trailer.
Now, there are a couple different fish species we can look for as we head on downriver. All those gray fish you'll see here below us and probably saw back at our dock, those are mullet. Mullet are known for leaping up out of the water. They can jump up to 6 times in a row and at a distance of 10 to 12 feet. And there's a couple different reasons why they might be jumping. Some of them are just adrenaline junkies, but more realistically, they're leaping up to escape from a predator, get more oxygen, or another reason could be is that they're a bottom feeder and sometimes they get things like algae stuck in their gills, so leaping up out of the water and slapping themselves back down will help to dislodge it, kind of like the equivalent of us blowing our noses. Now, another fish we can look for in the river today are the sheep's head. The sheep's head are a black and white striped fish, and if you were to catch one and look at it, they might smile back at you as they have a very funky human set-like of teeth. Now, a lot of people think it looks creepy, and I think it looks pretty cool. Now, they use those teeth for grinding up crustaceans and mollusks, their primary food source, so they're not a threat or a danger to us, but I still wouldn't go sticking any of your fingers in their mouths. Now, coming up off to our left-hand side here, we have a couple of bald cypresses. The bald cypress trees are a very slow-growing species, and they were almost cut down to extinction in the early 1900s. They're very useful due to their rot-resistant wood. Once it was determined that they're a slow-growing species, they were put into protection and have since rebounded. That first one growing up out of the water there is about 100 years old, and the second larger one here is about 400 years old. And those structures you'll see around its base, those are the cypress knees. The cypress knees help provide stability to the tree as well as providing oxygen to the rest of the roots. We have some cypress trees here in the park that are about 600 years old. Now, coming up in this stand of slash pines in front of us, there's a couple different birds we can look and listen for. Off to the left-hand side is where we'll find our great blue herons and their nests. There's at least 4 nests up there right now, and I do believe there's at least 1 great blue heron up there. And if you look off to the right-hand side, see that hairy tree and count 3 trees back. Up there, you'll find our resident bald eagle's nest. Now, our resident bald eagles, they are nicknamed George and Martha, and they've been coming to the park for about 16 years to nest and lay their eggs. That nest up there is about 2 years old. Their other one was knocked down in a storm a couple years ago, and they've since rebuilt. And also, in the past couple of months, George and Martha have hatched their very own pair of eaglets. And I do believe one of those eaglets is sitting out in that right frontmost tree. Now, I can tell the difference between the eaglets and the adults because the eaglets lack the bald white head that their parents have. They won't get that until they're about 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
Now, bald eagles are a migratory species. They come down here in the winter months to nest and lay their eggs. They go back up north in the summertime. They go their own separate ways.
Oh, yeah. Little turtle.
There would be manatees in here.
Yeah.
Isn't it too shallow for them?
No, we have to make it all in. Yeah, we have them all.
No, they're vegetarian.
Yeah, one that
Oh.
Now, that nest up there may look very large, but it actually doesn't even come close to the record-holding bald eagle's nest, which was found down here in St. Pete, Florida. That nest weighed over 4,400 pounds, measured 9 feet across and 20 feet deep. And it was so heavy that it actually broke the tree that it was in before those eagles were able to properly nest. Now, bald eagles will add a little bit to their nest every year that they return up to 2 feet, so it'll grow over time. And as we pass by Weeki Island here on the right, on either side of us, you may see some sawgrass. And on that sawgrass, you might see some small white clusters. Those clumps are apple snail eggs. The snails will come up out of the water, lay their eggs on the grass, and then when they're ready to hatch, they'll drop back into the water and become food for our native wading birds.
Well, that explains what those are. Snail eggs.
Now again, these trees off to our right here are the bald cypresses. Spring has sprung parts of their needles and begin flowing out, but for a large portion of the year they do drop all of their needles into the water, hence the name bald, and some of what you'll see hanging off of them right now is also Spanish moss, which is neither Spanish nor moss. It's simply a flowering plant in the bromeliad family, which includes other plants such as the pineapple and orchids. Now up in front of us off to the left, perched on that log sticking out of the water there, that beautiful blackbird there is an anhinga. Anhingas are water birds, and they like to spend a lot of their time during the day underwater fishing. Once they're done fishing, they'll come back up out of the water, perch on those low-hanging branches, and usually spread out their wings to dry off. Unlike other water birds, they don't have too much oil on their feathers, so they get quite waterlogged during their dives. Now that one there is a male, and I can tell that because of the all-black coloration. Females will differentiate with a light brown coloration on their necks and heads. Anhingas are very closely related to the cormorant. The cormorant is their saltwater cousin, and there's a couple of differences between the two species. The anhingas here use that very, very sharp bill to go spearfishing while they're underwater, whereas the cormorant has a hooked beak that it uses to snag fish on. The anhingas are adapted for diving up to about 60 feet of water, whereas the cormorants are adapted for diving a little bit deeper water, up to about 150 feet. Now, these anhingas here go by a handful of nicknames, including swamp turkey or snakebird for the way they look while they swim underwater, the bird of evil spirits for the eerie laugh-like call that they give off, and and the skeleton bird with a white lace-like structure found on the wings. Now, all of this grass you see here below us along the bottom of the riverbed, this is eelgrass. Eelgrass is a keystone species here in our spring ecosystem, so it's very important for a couple of reasons. It helps prevent erosion in the river, supplies the river with oxygen, creates refuge for small fish, and it also provides food for our manatees. Now, the manatees come up out of the Gulf and into the springs anytime between about November and March, whenever those Gulf temperatures drop below about 70. Those manatees need at least 68 degrees of water temperature, and like I said, here all year round in our spring, it's about 72 to 74 degrees. So it's perfectly comfortable temperature for them here all year round, especially during those colder winter months. Now, those manatees can grow up to over 1,000 pounds and eat about 10% of their body weight per day, meaning they can eat about 100 pounds of wheelgrass every single day. That's quite a lot of grass. So now you can see why it's so important to preserve its presence here in our ecosystem. Now, off to our left here is Parker's Landing, part of our Springs Coast Environmental Education Center, where students from around Hernando County can come and learn about our springs and environment. And on that board back there, you'll see some of our native birds of prey, and those are accurate wingspans with the eagle being up to 8 feet. Now another fish we can look for in the river today are the needlefish. Needlefish are very long and skinny fish, and they move their bodies just like the eelgrass does, so oftentimes they'll blend right in. But if you look closely, you might be able to spot them. They can swim backwards, and they're some of the only fish to be able to do so, so it's a pretty unique characteristic actually. The sea that we are on is the Weeki Wachee River, and it winds its way about 12 miles out to the Gulf of Mexico. We're about 5 miles in. The river is tidally influenced, and all of this very, very fresh water mixes with the salt water to become brackish.
Well, he's going pretty damn fast.
Now here's a good spot to look for the sheep's head. Again, they're the black and white striped fish, and they like to hang out along the bottom of the river here in the sandy area. Both the sheep's head and the mullet are actually a saltwater fish, and they use a process called reheating to travel between the two water types and tolerate a wide range of salinities. The lighter fish have more recently spent a lot of time here in the spring, and the darker fish have more recently spent a lot of time out in the Gulf. So they're not different fish, they've just been in different places. Now off to our left-hand side here is a good spot to look for turtles. Here in the river we have both red and yellow-bellied sliders, alligator snapping turtles, and soft-shell turtles. We all did see a soft-shell turtle earlier, and now you'll know that they just look like big brown pancakes in the water. They do hang out in this algae patch, but they'll blend right in. We also have, looks like we have 3 yellow-bellied sliders up on the log in front of us, and those also blend in pretty easily into this algae patch, as they often have algae growing on the back of their shells. Now, turtles have shells that are made out of the same material that our hair and nails are made out of, keratin, and they spend long periods of time underwater. Their shells will get quite soft, leaving them susceptible to predators, hence they need to come back up out of the water, dry themselves off, and harden those shells back up to keep themselves protected. Now this here is our shell station, and those turtles there are our branch managers. I'm here all day.
Oh, there.
And there goes our mullet jumping. We just put fresh batteries in that one. looks like it's a great day to be a turtle sunning yourself on the log. And if you wave at them, they might wave back.
Oh, okay.
They come out if we bring pizza.
Okay.
There you go.
There.
Right about dusk is when we really start. I've actually been on the river and had a Nancy swim right up to my kayak. That scared me to death because I thought it was the first time I ever been in a kayak. I was like, he's gonna dump me out.
They're mental giants. Unless they
Yeah.
they can get a little aggressive during mating season, but other than that, they're Now, as we come back to the dock, I will just ask that you do all please remain fully seated until we are safely towed up. Again, here's me, Emily, and on behalf of myself and Captain Lawrence,
Yeah,
we love
here.
this river. We love sharing it with you, and we hope you loved it too. Thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your day here at Weeki Wachee Springs State Park. Yep, there's that Anjinga. Yep,
There he is.
just caught
Oh, he got a
There he
fish.
goes. I love an Anjinga show.
Oh, right. Good
I've
job.
seen Anjingas swallow fish 3 times the size of their head. It's quite impressive.
I'm impressed he got a fish out of this water.
He's on the payroll, so he knows what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on cue.
That was pretty awesome.
Thank you.